All right, Knights of Apollo, what is up, guys? Hope you're doing well, and welcome to a brand new strategy game called Fire and Maneuver. This is a game made by a YouTuber, which you probably already know. You're probably already subscribed to him, called Armchair Historian. He makes amazing videos on history, high quality, very informative. If you haven't heard of him, if you're not subscribed to him, there's a link down to his channel in the video description. So this is his game. He's been working on it, I think, a little less than 2 years. So nothing crazy long. It's really impressive what they were able to get done in a short amount of time. But this is a battle game set during the Victorian time period, which is just amazing because there's not enough games set during this time period. So what is also really interesting about this game is that it's really unique. It is a turn-based game, but it's not your typical turn-based battle game. The way it works is that you give out a couple commands, then you end your turn, your opponent ends their turn, and then those commands play out. So it simulates almost like a real battle where you're the head general, you see how the battle's playing out, you give specific orders for how you see it, and by the time those orders reach your sub-commanders, things kind of change a little bit, and pieces move, soldiers move, artillery moves, and it creates some issues. So you kind of have to predict the future moves of your opponent. So it's really fun, and I could go on forever about the mechanics. I mean, it's really interesting mechanics. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it, which you'll see in today's battle. You're going to see the first ever online PvP battle of this game on YouTube, and of course I will be joined with Armchair Historian. We'll be doing the commentary together, and we'll go into detail about the mechanics of the game. There's all kinds of cool factions so far, like the UK, France, Italy, you have Russia, you have the Ottomans, you have the Prussians, you have Union, you have the United States Union, you have the CSA, the Confederates. So there's a lot of different nations and cultures that you can play as, which is really cool. And they're going to be adding a lot more, like nations from South America, which is something that's not covered too often. So before we dive into this battle and we look at the mechanics in more detail, there's some important links down in the video description. Now, first off, I want to say this game is a work in progress. What you see here is like pre-alpha, pre-early access. So you might see some bugs, you might see some things that might be changed in the future. Just keep in mind that this is a work in progress. The game is going to be free. That's right, a free game, but he's going to be adding some cosmetic, like cosmetic things you can buy. If you enjoy the game, you want to support the developer, you can buy some cool cosmetics, things like that. Nothing's going to be pay to win, just things that you can kind of buy to improve just little things here and there. I think that's a great way to do it. And again, if you love the game, buy something, support the developer. Now, another way you can support the developer, again, links down in the video description. There's a Patreon for Armchair Historian. If you support that Patreon, even just for 1 month, I think it's the $10 tier, you will get the game early. It's supposed to come out July 15th. It's planned to come out July 15th. So you can get it right now. You can play it right now if you support his Patreon, even just for a month. I also have the link for the game on Steam. It is very important, guys. Please add this game to your wish list. The reason you want to do that, even if you're going to get the game, even if you don't need to remind yourself, it's really beneficial for a developer if the game has a lot of people adding it to their wish list. It kind of promotes it a bit more on the homepage. So it's really important that you add it to your wish list and kind of promote the game and get the word out, because again, I genuinely really enjoy this game. I'm really impressed by Armchair Historian. The other thing is there's a Discord for the game. So if you're interested in communicating with other members of the community who are interested in the game, if you want to learn more about the game, join the Discord. There's all kinds of people in there who are going to help you out, and you can discuss about the game, and if you have questions about mechanics of the game or something, it's right there, the Discord. So I believe those are all the links. Again, check out the links. Check out his channel. Let's go ahead and jump into this battle. This is a what if scenario. So it's what if the French conquered Mexico, and what if the CSA won their independence, and then France invaded Texas And so the CSA has to defend Texas. It's a fun scenario and very out there because a lot of things would have had to have happened. But that's the beauty of these historical games. You can do a lot of what ifs. But anyways, sit back, relax, get some snacks and drinks, and enjoy the battle. All right, guys, here we are on the battlefield. And you can see we're in this really awesome general's tent when you zoom out, which is really cool. But we'll zoom back in and get stuck in here. This is that's a nice touch. I really love that general's tent. So in this scenario, we are doing a bit of a alternate history, I guess you could say, where the French have defeated the Mexicans, and the French are greedy. They're greedy and they want more, and the South has won the Civil War, or at the very least kept their sovereignty, their independence. And now they're having to defend their southern border against the French. So I'll be leading the Confederacy, and you will be leading the French, Armchair?
Yep, that's correct. I've got a French expeditionary force heading up to Texas, and the Confederates are going to have to defend their border here.
All right, sounds good. So I guess you want to just get started, and we can kind of dive into these army comps as we go. All right, so yeah, looking at my army, we went with like a bit of a smaller. This is not the max size for what you can bring to the battlefield. There's plenty of different settings in the custom map on, like, you know, how many troops you want to bring, how much money and everything. So we went with kind of a smaller scale just to kind of, so it's not a bit too overwhelming. We can really show you everything in detail. So let's start with my army. We'll start with my infantry. So I am bringing some just regular infantry, like regular line infantry, and so CSA has the efficiency trait, where they can do basically two action points, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So most units in the game are only able to move and fire once, but there are two traits, or perks we call them, that can change that. So you have breech loaders, which is more of a late time period trait. When you assign them better weapons, they can fire multiple times. And then some elite units, or just well-inspired units, like in this case the Confederacy, have efficiency that allow them to, let's say, change into a formation and then move up, or move up and then switch into a formation. So they can be a little more aggressive on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's super useful for aggressive players. But yeah, bringing two of the regular infantry, and then I have a unit of the Texas Brigade, which they have some very cool abilities. They have not only +1 range, they have the efficiency, and also they have rugged, which the terrain penalties don't matter, right? You can just push through them, which is, I mean, that combined with efficiency is really strong. Next, I have the Louisiana Tigers, the Zouaves, which they have a shock ability with a very powerful charge attack. So definitely going to try to use them aggressively. Again, combined with the efficiency, that's just really good. I do have some artillery.
Nothing special. I believe you bought howitzers, and so they've got indirect fire. They can fire over the heads of other troops.
Right. So that is useful. And then I have Stonewall's Brigade, which Stonewall, they have range drill, which +1 range damage, which is, again, very useful. So that's my infantry. That was my artillery, and then I'm bringing some cav.
You should have some regular CSA cavalry, and they've got rugged, so they can ignore terrain penalties. That could be really useful to get some cavalry through forests and do a little guerrilla fighting. And then you've got bushwhackers.
Bushwhackers, that's it. Yeah.
Kind of like Civil War cowboys, who are
but they're disorganized, so it's kind of like a bit of a mob coming at you. But they do have skirmishing. They do have rugged as well. So again, rugged on cav, that seems really strong. So I'm going to try to use that to the best of my ability. So yeah, you want to go ahead and check out your army?
Sure. I think you could start filling out your orders or move some troops up, and then I'll talk about my guys. So I have purchased 4 regular French line infantry. Absolutely nothing special about them. What is notable, however, is there's a big difference in the American Civil War armies, the Union and the Confederacy, compared to European armies. The European armies come with more cohesion. So in fire and maneuver, units have cohesion bars, which is kind of like their morale, or just kind of like their overall discipline. You've got to break a unit's cohesion before you can damage them and send them running. And European armies standard have 4 points of cohesion, whereas the Union and Confederacy standard have about 3. So while Apollo here has got efficiency, he can be a little more aggressive with his Confederate troops. If they're shot in the flank, or I stack a lot of damage onto his units, they're going to be quicker to run than the standard French line infantry. I've also gone for Voltigeurs and Imperial Guard, who are more elite troops. I believe the Imperial Guard come with 5 cohesion, and the Confederacy has got nothing in their entire roster that has 5 cohesion. So the European factions are a lot more conventional, a little tankier, but the Confederates here are going to be a little more aggressive. It looks like my line infantry also are equipped with smoothbores, so I'm not going to have a great range advantage. But the Confederates here have opted for some rifling, some Springfield rifles, and they're going to get a little bit of a range advantage. And if they take that hill toward the center of the map, that's going to give them an even greater range advantage. So my biggest challenge here is that creek in the center and a big Confederate range advantage on the hill. And then lastly, I've got a small artillery advantage. I've got 2 batteries, whereas Apollo has only got 1. But nothing special about my artillery. They're just standard. I think they're like 4 6-pounders, just regular artillery.
Yeah, the French look awesome. I do love the control ability, or if you press left control, you get this cinematic shot, and you can see the sprites, the drawings in detail. It just looks awesome.
Yeah, every sprite, I don't know why we did this. If I had to do it again, I'd probably do it differently, but I suppose it's reminiscent of our YouTube channel. But all of these sprites had to be hand-drawn at 8 different angles in every part of their uniform. What is cool about it is we drew everything with separate layers, so all of the units are constructed using a program in which you can design custom units. So I actually put all these together myself, just using the layers provided by our illustrators, and then I colored them all in to kind of assemble them and exported them into the game. And so once we get that system ready for the players, that could be really cool for people to design their own uniforms for their own custom regiments. If you wanted to make like the Pennsylvania Bucktail Union infantry, you could do something like that. I don't believe we're going to give the players any chance to give customized troops better abilities, so it's not like those who spent time customizing troops will win or can pay for the ability to win. But at the very least, you could do some minor modifications on uniforms. That's not going to be for release, but that's something that we're aiming to do because we've got the system built to do so.
Yeah, and eventually you're going to have all kinds of customization maps and just scenarios, and that's really cool.
Yeah, every map is constructed using our map editor, which will also be given to the community. So any kind of scenario or unit, or in this case, alternate history with the French and the Confederates, anything the community wants to do, we've got the architecture and the textures possible for American scenarios, European scenarios, really anything the players want to. To also give some information on the game, the factions we currently have available are I think there's 9 in total. So we've got the French, Italians, Germans, Russians, Austrians, Ottomans, Germans, British. And then as a DLC for the game, we've got the Union and the Confederacy. However, the game will be free, and so that DLC will be really the only paid content to get the full experience for the launch. Very cool, very cool.
And so, yeah, is there plans of making more factions, or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're already working with our community to come up with factions for the War of the Triple Alliance in South America. That's a conflict and really a continent that's not explored in strategy games. We wanted to make sure that Fire Maneuver not only is accessible to as many people as possible, hence why it'll be a free-to-play, but also that it covers global conflicts throughout the Victorian period. So we want to touch on Europe and North America, South America. We want to go to Africa, maybe Anglo-Zulu War stuff in the future, Boshin War in Japan, Taiping in China. All of these conflicts, and they're very large conflicts, are happening just in the span of a couple decades. Our game takes place between the years of 1853 to 1871, and you've got all these wars all around the globe happening just between that time period.
Yeah, yeah. And I do like the fact, because honestly, personally, I don't really know much about South American history during the Victorian time period. So like, yeah, that's one of my favorite things about video games, especially historical video games, is that you get to experience a subject that you might not know too much about, and it kind of makes you more intrigued about it. It kind of teaches you a little bit about it, and then you kind of look more into it on your own. And
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, we're looking to, for South America specifically, we're probably going to add Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina, but that's kind of later down the road. And, you know, if the game does well, we want to keep adding content to it, keep adding maps, keep adding factions, and keep things alive for the community. And whatever the community wants, if it's widely requested, we want to make it, because after all, the game is for the people playing it. And so if our audience likes it, if they want specific factions in a certain continent that fit the time period, then we're going to do it.
Very cool. Very cool.
I would like to give a little bit of backstory just about how this game is working. Obviously, this isn't like the real-time Total War kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's also not fully turn-based. It's kind of like a hybrid that you guys are seeing. This game is utilizing a simultaneous turn system. So as Apollo here is filling out his orders, I'm filling out mine. So there's very little downtime between turns. And then once we end our turn and submit our orders, we get to watch the whole battle unfold. So you might notice, as I'm even talking, Apollo's just kind of like filling out his orders, and then when we end it, all of our troops are moving at the same time.
Yeah,
so that's something unique that we do.
I love it. I think it's really, like you said, it's really unique, and what I like, it's very immersive and realistic, because oftentimes generals would give out an order and things would change by the time the order gets to, to the soldiers. So you might give out an order thinking, oh, do this, but as you hit the end turn, things quickly change, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and players will be almost making their orders to what they think will happen, not to what they currently see. So you've really got to play with like a delay in mind, like, all right, I could move up on the bridge, but if I think my enemy also wants to take the bridge, our guys are going to run into each other. So maybe I actually want to preemptively fire on the bridge area, thinking that the enemy is poised to cross. And when you can pull off those kind of master plans, it can be very satisfying, because the enemy player's like, how the hell do you know I was going to move there? You targeted and destroyed my whole column that was moving on the bridge. So once you get good at predicting, that can be very rewarding. Right.
And it's a little bit of a kind of reminds me of almost like an Overwatch kind of thing, where you can set up a fire at area you think the enemy is gonna go, and I think that's pretty cool. It's like 4D chess here,
Yep.
Chess with like a lot of going on,
Yep.
But yeah, you've taken the town, so this is where things are gonna get pretty spicy here, guys, because the first shots are about to go, and it's gonna be pretty interesting. And as you can tell, I've been super aggressive with my marching. I've taken the hill, but you've taken the city. So the question is, what happens next? And I think that's the real fun of the game, because I could be sitting here setting up my plans, setting up my moves, and I go, oh, he's just gonna, you're just gonna stand there, you're not gonna charge. And then I make a bunch of moves predicting that, but then you charge, and it completely throws off my entire strategy. So there's a lot of fun in trying to know your enemies, so to speak, and try to predict their moves.
Yeah, it can be fun too if you play with someone a lot and you get to know how they play, and then you're not only are you doing just standard predictions based on what you see, but then there's some psychology, and you're like, oh, I know Apollo likes to charge after he gets the first shot off. I'm going to start planning around that. So it can be fun playing with people as well, and almost creating strategies around the psychology there. That can be fun as well.
Yeah.
Or even throwing each other off, too. So you might put someone into an attack column formation, and then the enemy might think, okay, he's definitely going to charge me, but then maybe using that efficiency, you quickly change out of that formation and do something totally different. So you can play all kind of mind games.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's see your next move.
Have you ended your turn, Apollo?
Pretty soon. I'm just
okay.
got a couple more moves.
Thinking.
I'm thinking. Okay, here we go.
All right, we've got troops crossing the creek. Tigers moving up to hold the bridge.
We're moving that artillery, nice. Oh, crap.
Where's your artillery?
Yeah, about that. I got tunnel vision there a little bit, focusing on the infantry. There we go. Shots fired.
Shots off.
So cool. I do love the art style of the game. I think it looks really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, the illustrators, everything was drawn by hand. Of course, there's 3D models in here, like the buildings and the terrain or the tiles at least are 3D, but the firing effects, the sprites, things like fences and trees, those are all drawn in our art style reminiscent of the YouTube channel.
Very cool. And I just want to show on my screen here, it might have seemed like the river doesn't do anything because all of my troops that crossed it didn't have any issues with it, but you can see my regular infantry, they're now bogged down, so this turn I can't move them forward, so I'm kind of dealing with the issues of terrain here because they don't have rugged. So I probably made a mistake here, honestly. Probably should have sent the Texas Brigade to cross the river. Yeah. But that's all right. That's all right. So sometimes things can lead to happy accidents, I guess. There we go. My artillery's so far back.
If you put those on the road, they can get a nice movement bonus.
Okay.
2 tiles a turn, yep.
And really quick, I didn't really show this off. This is so cool. You can look at the orders you're giving by the bottom, hitting the bottom left. And it shows the list of the orders there. I think that's a nice touch. I love that you're seeing the hand of the officer kind of looking at what he's writing to give to the other officers. I think that's cool. And then you can go in, if you want to cancel a move, you can just go in and hit X. Nice touch.
We drew different sleeves for all the different playable countries to give that a little more immersion as well. We're going to get voice acting too. About half the lines for the game have been recorded. We're getting the other half in a couple weeks. That'll be one of the last things that we add in. But you'll hear, you know, a southern aide-de-camp kind of like commenting on your orders. We even have some funny lines too, where he'll like compliment you on stuff, or like if you fill out an order, he'll go, "Oh, an excellent plan, General." He'll kind of make little comments as you go. And we put in little Easter eggs, little historical Easter eggs for each faction too. So there's chances of voice lines that play that kind of reference historical things.
Are you gonna add any kind of like negative, like "What are you doing"?
I was thinking about that. I think right now he kind of just compliments you on most things that you do. But yeah, that'd be funny. Just a random chance. No matter what you do, he'll just like have a chance of criticizing something that you do.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, there we go.
I brought Shaspo rifles on my guards where you're crossing that river, so I'm going to be able to hit you a couple times actually with the Shaspos, because they're breech loaded, so you can fire multiple times. So that might be pretty devastating.
Yeah, that's the thing with the CSA you gotta watch out for, is you don't want to get caught with your pants down, because you know they don't. The CSA, that's their weakness, right? Is they kind of struggle with the discipline.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of good technology. Oof. So getting long range breech loaders, like I think the French excel at that. They've got weapons that are almost like World War I rifles. They've got Shaspos, which can fire long range and can send multiple shots down range quickly. A lot of other nations struggle to do so. Even Prussia, they've got good range with their artillery, the Germans, but even the needle rifle has not got that range of the Shaspos, and the Confederates really don't have anything in their arsenal that can compete there. So they've got to rely on weight of numbers and that efficiency to try to outflank and outmaneuver their opponents.
So a little bit of a Mexican standoff here in the bridge. Yeah. It's so cool too. This is why I love like the historical gaming, is seeing these scenarios that would never happen or never did happen, and just kind of seeing how would they play out a little bit. It's pretty cool.
I would also like to touch on sound design. Right now we haven't put in all of the kind of cool ambient sounds, so right now it's a little quiet. It kind of feels like everybody's just staring at each other, but we've got all the sounds done. We custom made all the different sounds. In fact, we have different weapon recordings for each type of rifle that you can fire. So if you're playing in a scenario in the 1870s and you've got long-range breech loaders, they're going to sound a little more modern sounding than, let's say, old smoothbore percussion rifles that you're using. And of course, when you're filling out orders, you'll kind of hear the ambience of troops firing back at each other and explosions going off. Right now, it's a little bit quiet, but that's something we're definitely adding for release. It should be emphasized, too, this is the alpha build. It's not even the beta, so we're playing very early right now. And if you guys do see bugs or weird animations, that stuff is definitely being worked on. Every day, the whole team's hard at work on improving sound, animations, gameplay, everything.
Very cool, yeah.
Oh, you're going in for a...
I'm going in!
The Tigers.
Tigers are hungry. Oof. Nice. Hit in the back. And I see that you crossed the river there. And yeah, you did that because that's, I mean, that's to your advantage, right? You're stuck, but you're closer, right? And that's better for your guns, yeah.
And I see what you're doing with the cavalry in the back there, sneaking through the
Dang it. Yes. I see some Arty there. So see if I can get lucky here.
I think I can already see people wanting to comment as well about things like Fog of War, and that kind of like realism mode where it shows even less of the UI and shows you less of those damage pop-ups and hiding units in Fog of War. That's something we also want to work on later on. For now, we want just a really easily visible view especially for people who are newer. We want everything to be easy to view and play. But of course, if people start getting really good at the game and they want some like a hardcore realism mode, that's something that we've also been looking into. And other scenarios too, for our customized battles, we're also in the process of working on adding like a multi-day battle system, so you could play throughout the day, and then during nightfall you've got to redeploy for the next day, and reinforcements could come in the next day, and you could really have your own dynamic Gettysburg style battle where it goes on for 3 days, but completely dynamic to your situation. So maybe you do a Gettysburg like scenario where you wrap it up in 2 days, or maybe you play on a map as big as Gettysburg, but you can break the enemy force in 1 day. That'll be entirely up to you and how you customize your battles. And in addition to that, we have historical battles that players will be able to start, different historical scenarios, and also a campaign mode that we're working on too. Perhaps not as ambitious as something like Total War, not a big world map that you can conquer, but specific military campaigns, such as in Crimea, or let's say the Overland or Peninsula campaign in the American Civil War. And players will assume the role of a general, not necessarily an omnipotent commander who can make all kinds of calls and build buildings and build roads. Really just going to be focusing on the army. So that's something that we're looking forward to showing off later this month.
Very cool.
The turn is going. You've got your artillery, or rather your cavalry poised on my artillery.
Yeah, I see that you moved some infantry to try to save the artillery. What kind
and the Tigers are running away. They failed their charge across the bridge.
Oh, come on, Tigers. Oh, and once again. Oh, I forgot my artillery. I think I'm an infantry kind of guy, so like I kind of made an oopsie there. But let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna try to trick you here a little bit. I give away too much, but. Alright, here we go. I like how there's a set number of moves you can make too, because sometimes you have to make sacrifices on what you want to do. over other things.
Artillery's or cavalry's charging the artillery there, broke him. Yeah, and if players don't like the order restrictions, you can set the order count to whatever you want. So if you think it's better to have full control over every unit, you can set the order. I think the max is like 16 orders. We're just playing on 8 right now. But I like the order limitations as well, because you've got to think of where you're going to spend those orders and how you're going to set them up, and it makes things a little more strategic and easier to follow as well.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, some troops in the creek broke.
That helps a lot. Still a long way to go.
And you might even want to pull back some of those troops to regain cohesion, because that cohesion's really killing you.
Yeah. Oh, at the far left flank.
On your hill, yeah.
Oh, on my hill. That's right.
On the hill, yeah.
Yeah. That is true. Also, you're threatening the bridge because there's nothing standing in your way.
That's
so.
True.
So I don't know. Okay. It's tough, man. So many choices. So many possible moves.
And for this map, we're not playing with objectives, we're just playing kills to win, so I think the first person to kill 90% of the enemy army is going to win.
Yep, 90%, which is pretty much all.
So I feel a little bad for doing this, but I moved some guys up on the bridge, and that's going to pin your cohesion down on the guys who ran past.
It's alright.
I had made the order before I had given the suggestion, so...
Hey, Apollo, you should do absolutely what I want you to do. Yeah. That's alright. Yeah.
To clarify some of the rules to people as well, that cohesion that we were speaking of earlier, you can restore cohesion as long as you're not adjacent to an enemy. It essentially acts like a... it's almost as if like you need to pull back from a firefight. You'll regain your cohesion to kind of get the guys motivated again, to kind of get them in order, rally them, and then you can bring them back in the fight. And if you withdraw from a fight with low cohesion, some guys will actually run away. You might notice on the UI, in the top left, you'll see like a little red soldier running. That's attrition, and you take attrition if you've got low cohesion and you start maneuvering. Basically, it's a penalty to disengage from a firefight. Guys will just start breaking. So while it can be useful to regain cohesion and fall back, you're also going to sacrifice a company who's going to run away as a result of that.
Right. So it's a kind of a balance you have to deal with.
Yep.
Here we go.
Alright. Oh, now I've...
Yeah, now...
slow, making my
yeah,
order.
come on!
There we go.
Okay, so you falling back there?
You've got rifles, though, so you can engage me across the creek. And I'm getting charged in the creek now, too.
Yep. Sending in some cav. There we go. Good hits.
And the artillery is finally arriving.
Yeah.
On the way. Did you order it? Did you move it this turn? Or did you forget? I think you...
I moved it. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, the guards are broken. You killed the Imperial Guard.
Yeah. Because you were beating that regular line. I felled them, but I got them out of there and then regrouped. Oh, that's right. Okay. Just trying to hang on to that hill advantage.
Yeah.
And that cav infantry fight there is pretty intense.
Yep. Fighting down into the creek. And I think you've got the advantage there if I check. Or it's a little even, actually. Yeah, it's a little even. Your bushwhackers just don't have a lot of companies. It's a smaller unit. Not a lot of squadrons.
Alright. Yeah, I think everything's good here. And by the way, if you're watching and you're confused about something, just ask away in the comments below. I'm sure you'll be kind of in the comments, seeing what people are saying. I'll be in the comments, trying to help people where I can.
Yeah, we've got a Discord community for the game as well, and those guys are super useful. If you like the game, oh yeah, I just charged into, and I think we both died. Both of you guys were like, screw this, I'm not fighting.
Yeah. All right, that's enough. Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a Discord page if you wanted to ask questions, and we've got a community that's very responsive. The game's not even out yet, and I think there are 3 guides on the game that are giants that I haven't even had a chance to read.
Like community made?
Oh yeah, yeah, and people are like, they have all these strategies, and what's also cool is some countries have, like the Austrians have a Hungarian line infantry and Austrian line infantry, so some people like to play, let's say Austria with just a Hungarian force, or they'll play the Prussians with just a Bavarian corps. I think another one is the Ottomans. You can field an Egyptian army, or I've seen the Italians field an army of Garibaldi red shirts, not even using the regular line infantry. So you can play. Not only is each country different, they all have different traits and identities. They play very different from each other, but they've also got different compositions that can make the playstyle vastly different.
Yeah.
I'm lagging behind. I'm talking too much.
No, it's right. Yeah, and since you're making your moves here, I mean, I've really only played the CSA. I think I played a little bit of France the first time we played. But just playing one faction, you realize the depth of different potential strategies, and you could definitely play one faction for a long time just to get the potential, like just to really understand how they work. And since there's so many factions in the game, I mean, I think the replayability is going to be really fun because it's, you know, not only is it good for you to master a faction, but it's good for you to understand how all the factions work. So when you're playing against other players, you know, you can kind of predict what they're going to do in terms of like army comp wise, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and you beat my bushwhackers there. No surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still got my cohesion down though, because you've got your, I think there's stone wall on the hill there.
Yeah, stone
I
wall.
got a few guys left though. I'm a little down to like my Voltigeur elites and a few others. Yeah, we spent a very long time working with the community, doing research. We worked with the Royal Armories Museum in London as well to get the weapons accurate. There's like an armory when you go to create your force where you can drag and drop historical weapons onto your units and create the force that you want. And as we were saying, each country plays very differently based on their historical background. So the British had a smaller army, but it was professionally trained and known as just like one of the most elite forces in Europe. And so all of their line infantry almost has the stats of guard units from other countries, but that means they're very expensive. So if you like smaller defensive forces that are elite, you got the British. If you like larger horde armies, you've got the Russians. And one thing also is none of the uniforms, none of the sprites, and none of the stats are copy and paste. So if you take French line infantry and Prussian line infantry, they're going to play different, they're going to look different, they're going to act different. There's no reskins and copy and pasting in the entire game anywhere. So that's something that we spent a very long time creating. I think you're going to beat me very soon.
Well, I wanted to mention how good of a move it was that you retreated there, because I went for a desperate move. I put my Arty in the trees to just try to get in range of your infantry, and by doing that, they're stuck now. But yeah, my infantry looks like killed the ones in the creek there. Stonewall Brigade.
Yep.
And the beautiful music. The music, that's a high point of the game, man. It's really good. So
yeah, each country gets authentic 19th century marches for their national themes. I think we're also going to sell like a cheap like $2 or $3 DLC pack that just adds even more historical marches, especially for the Civil War at some point. We've got Franco-Prussian war marches, Austrian, Turkish, all kinds of all 19th century historic marches for the game that were all custom made. So that's something that's very exciting too.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's so much we could have talked about there. I mean, did we even talk about the marches, the column marches? I don't think we did.
I don't think we touched on formations too much.
Yeah, different formations
matter a lot.
Yeah, it's just we'll definitely have to do this again to cover more of the game. But game is expected to come out July 15th.
July 15th. I think so. We're going in from right now. This is an alpha build. This is really early. What you guys saw today. We're going into beta on June 15th, and then we're launching as an early access and beta on July 15th as a free to play. No loot boxes, no gambling or any weird pay to win stuff. Yeah, so you could try it out for free. If you don't like it, come back later as we're developing it. If you do like it, you can hang out in our Discord and offer suggestions and feedback, and we're going to keep developing this thing throughout the year, keep adding more to it, and really working on polishing animations and making the game as immersive and competitive as possible.
Oh, yeah. And you can have up to 3v3, right? In multiplayer battles?
So I think even next week, now we're adding the ability to do 3v3. And you guys saw a battle here where I think it was about 9 units against 8 or 9 against 9. The current max number of units per player is 32. And theoretically, you could have a 3v3 where everybody has 32 units. This map is also considered small/medium. You could have a map that's 30 by 30 tiles. And at first glance, a map that's like 15 by 15 and a map that's 30 by 30, you're like, oh, it's just 2 times as big. But if you do the multiplication, a 15 by 15 is only a couple hundred tiles. A 30 by 30 is 900 tiles. So it scales based on these tiles. Even a 30 by 30 can be huge to play on, and you could have 6 players fighting on a giant historical battlefield with a multi-day battle system coordinating with all your friends and opponents. And or you could do smaller skirmish scenarios. It's entirely up to you how you want to play it.
Yeah, and because you are adding all this customization in terms of multiplayer battles, you know, creating different maps and different scenarios, you guys could, do campaigns. I mean, you could do grand campaigns against buddies of yours or, whoever and play these fun matches. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. You can launch up Tabletop Simulator or open up Photoshop, create a map, and play battle to battle and create custom armies, or use our campaign system. Right on launch, it's not going to be multiplayer, but we plan on making that multiplayer. So you could do the Franco-Prussian War against a friend, and in our campaign system, players are going to be able to manage their own core and move them around on the tile-based maps, and call in additional core, set military policies like railways, telegraph lines, and logistics. Supply is a huge focus of our campaign. I think we may have gone overboard on supply, but logistics is very important. Managing supply lines, HQs, supply depots, laying siege, all of that will be part of our campaign system. For now, though, we're just taking a look today at the custom battles, and hopefully I'll have another opportunity later to show off the campaign system.
All right, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. I do appreciate the opportunity to check out your game and everything. I think it's really fun. I mean, even when I was playing this, I was kind of getting too much into the battle, because I wanted to talk about the game, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, this is cool. What is he up to? And I really enjoyed it. So yeah, definitely got to do this again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That's gonna wrap it up. I'll be sure to have links down on the bottom to your Discord, the game Discord.
Wishlist on Steam as well. That helps us a lot.
And your Patreon. So if you support your Patreon, you get the game early, correct?
You can play early. I believe it's $10. You don't even have to pay monthly. You can just pay it once and cancel, or you could pay monthly just to support us, support the development of the game, and then you can grab a key.
There you go. All right, guys. We'll see you next time on the battlefield.